of growth in various sectors and is at the threshold of a digital revolution. A number of industries have adapted to the technological change and have witnessed an optimum turnover over the years. Do Big Symposium, presented by Tata Docomo Business Services and powered by CNBC TV18, focuses on this technological change that can empower industry leaders in the SME sector across all verticals such as finance, human resources, marketing and many more to reap maximum profits for a business. With the theme Digital Dividends, a Leader's Perspective, Do Big Symposium continued its journey across the country and visited Delhi and Kolkata with the industry experts to highlight the impact of digital integration in businesses. Let's take a look at the significant points discussed at the Delhi edition.
If I just look at the historical perspective, if you have just a few decades over the beginning or the last century, we had the basic automation age. I think people were just transactions were being kind of put on the computer and just processing was taking place. Beginning of this century, we had the internet age. Enterprises were connected. We had straight through processing of data. A lot of improvements took place. Middle of the last decade, we got into the information age where we had engaged customer. He went through a lot of multi-channel experience, multi-channel interface, all that he could kind of go through. And beginning of this decade, we had the so-called digital age. People are expecting instant gratification. They want to press the button and have the result, whether it's ticket booking or make some payment or whatever you want to have, you want instant gratification. That's where the customers are going to it. But now having passed through that or going through that phase, in the current scenario, can we call this age as insights age? Because many of things that we're doing are all insights driven, context sensitive, and yet looking for instant gratification.
I think one of the biggest things that would be required to truly become digital across, to get every employee to become digital, the entire ecosystem to adopt digital, is what I believe is what L'Oreal is doing. Reverse mentoring. Digital quotient is inversely proportional to age. Clearly, what are they doing? Here, unlike the convention, which is a vice president of a company is giving gyan to the new bachas are giving gyan to VP about how to be digitally savvy. And reverse mentoring is going to be big. If you want somebody who's been in the system for 30 years, 50 years, how does he or she start becoming digitally savvy? So clearly, to drive the digital agenda is going to be the key. Once you've implemented the digital program in a small nook, created a separate entity, hired a CDO, got the people in place, the key to truly leveraging the benefits of digital is how do we make digital widespread.
Do Big Symposium brings forth the perspective of renowned leaders on digital dividends, and the panel at Delhi consisted of Rachna Nath, Partner and Head, Digital Consulting KPMG, Vivek Kamra, President, India JK Tyre and Industries Limited, Ratan Sagar Khanna, CMD Quality Limited, Harjeet Singh Chauhan, Head SME Operations, Tata Docomo Business Services.
Mr. Khanna, we had the chairman of Amul at our Ahmedabad event to talk about some of the challenges while percolating. You worked in Amul as well. What are your thoughts on this, especially in an industry like dairy and even the beverages piece?
Dairy actually deals with the very large number of farmers, all of them producing very little amount. And invariably, you must be hearing the largest adulteration happening in milk. Now, that's a challenge to us. What actually is required is that when we buy the milk from the farmer, we must test it right there. And when we test it, we get the real-time information on every farmer about how much volume he is giving, how much quality of milk he is giving, what price do we pay him. Now, that kind of a mechanization at the village level has to be done, and we had done it. Now, what we did was that from there, we get across the entire information into our computers around. Then comes the reverse to him. He needs to be paid. We pay him every 10 days. Now the challenge was initially, if you had not been getting into this kind of a digital systems, you send cash. How much cash? Crores of rupees. How many people to send across? Now today, as of now, what we have done is we are paying one village for the entire group of people there. The demonetization has given us a challenge today.
Could you quickly give us your sort of broad thoughts on this whole digital dividend theme and some of the interesting stuff that you've been telling us you're doing at JK?
I find it really shocking that people come to work and don't want to adopt the systems that they use in parking lots, at the counters that they see every day. They don't want to do it in their own businesses. I don't know if some of you experience the same thing. We in our day-to-day life, we today experience, we touch digital all the time, but for some reason, employees who work in your own organization still take printouts as reports. Everyone needs to get on board, and I think Prateek made that point quite aptly. I think that's the key starting point.
Typically, you do see with the SME customers that there might be an IT department, but it doesn't really percolate down to every part of the organization. Are you seeing some changes there, some trends?
See, in fact, what we've seen in SMEs is that they are far more flexible. They are far more in sync with the times, saying, now listen, if I have to grow, and if digital is the way, or if some other technology is the way, this is what I have to imbibe within my organization. And typically, in a smaller organization, it is the vision can easily become pervasive. In a large organization, it's rather difficult because cultures solidify with years of success. It's so difficult to change. So some of the digital initiatives that we've seen are more sort of associated with the small and medium enterprises where, they are not tackling or they are not attacking a part of the value chain. Most of the examples that we've seen, these guys are talking about really, innovating at the core. So saying that, let me look at the entire value chain and let me look at how can I digitally reach a customer? How can I track a customer, if I may use that word? Using his digital footprint. And once I've reached the customer, how do I position my products and services? And even the fulfillment of products and services should be digital.
I'm going to put one audience question to you, Rachna. Shailesh is asking, how much is India digitized so far, and how long do you think it will take for the entire country to really adopt digital wholeheartedly?
Digitalization has really reached, possibly in the urban areas quite a bit, because I don't know how many of you use WhatsApp. That's digital, frankly, And Mr. Chandelier said, about age and digital. Believe me, my 45, 75 plus mama, mummies, masis, and by the time I get to my mobile, I'll have 300, messages from them. So I think digitization is not just about, what we are seeing out here. It's about communication. It's about platforms. But coming back to possibly, adoption as far as rural is concerned, believe me, it will happen faster in India than it will happen in any other emerged economy. The reason being, there's a need. And that there's a need to be able to beat the infrastructure and be able to make sure that you're creating more inclusion.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up this panel, let's have a big round of applause to all our panelists. Thank you so much for being a great audience. Let me quickly kick off the digital aspect of the evening.
Technology played an important role at the symposiums as the guests were asked to participate through the Do Big app and answer 3 questions. The response for each question asked at the Delhi Symposium was as follows. Do you have a digital vision and strategy that is communicated and known to all employees? Yes, 89%. No, 11%. Do you see your organization appointing a Chief Digital Officer, CDO, in the next 12 months? Yes, 37%. No, 40%. Already have a CDO, 23%. What stage of digital strategy implementation are you at? Not yet started, 12%. Initial stages, 64%. Well advanced, 24%.
In the year 1965,
after the break, we take a look at the highlights of the Kolkata edition. Stay tuned.
In 1985, that came down to 25 years.
Do Big Symposium continued its journey across the country and visited Kolkata with industry experts to highlight the impact of digital integration in businesses. Here is a glimpse of the Kolkata edition.
No longer there. And I was reading a very interesting report by a gentleman called Mr. Ray Wang. Now, Ray Wang is the author of Disrupting Digital Business. And he's given some very interesting, though slightly scary statistics. He talks about the fact that 52% of the companies which were a part of the Fortune 500 list in 2000 do not exist anymore. 52%. There's another very interesting piece of statistic, which is that in the year 1965, the average age of a Fortune 500 company was 60 years. In 1985, that came down to 25 years. In 2011, it was 18 years. And it's predicted that by 2020, it'll be 11 years. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is essentially the impact of the digital revolution. So you're either a part of it or you're a victim. When you're a victim, you're out.
So while everybody understands that the digital can reap huge dividends, we often come across companies who say that, I know it can do a lot of things for me, but I'm not sure how I go about doing this. And that's what we're trying to attempt here. We're trying to see what elements do you need to put in place as a company to truly reap the benefits that accrue with digital. If I am a conventional organization which is into business of textiles, business of manufacturing, to create an organization of this sort, we heard Kaushik say that, half his age people, you're going to need environment also very different for these set of people compared to what you have in your traditional organization. And that, I think, probably is the reason why most companies have said, I think I need to incubate it outside, because the kind of skills I need, the kind of people I need, even the environment that they need is very different from the rest of the organization.
Do Big Symposium brings forth the perspective of renowned leaders on digital dividends, and the panel at Kolkata consisted of Subankar Sen, ED, Senco, Gyanesh Chaudhary, Managing Director and CEO, Vikram Solar, Shitanshu Jhunjhunwala, Director, Turtle, Keshav Bhajanka, Director, Century Plyboards India, Harjit Singh Chauhan, Head SME Operations, Tata Docomo Business Services.
So how do companies which aren't based in Silicon Valley, which don't have those billions of dollars of funding with no revenues, how does a traditional company which is in a brick and mortar business really approach this disruption, which we've all taken for granted, and really say that that's converted into dividends?
Well, earlier when we were talking about digital, we would say e-commerce, we'd say e-marketing, and that was it. That was basically what people thought of digital, how to get higher customer engagement. Of course, that is a very important aspect, how to attract more customers, how to interact better with customers. But now the back end of a company can be augmented or can be added to so substantially. For instance, in Century, we are using CRM software that is cloud-based. It is available on mobile phones to all our sales team. And that software is going to help increase our productivity by at least 20 to 25%.
Do you agree with him, Raji, that we've moved beyond talking about who's going to get disrupted to now everybody thinking about how can I link my back end with my front end in a more efficient way? Is that something that you're doing at Vikram Solar as well?
Of course, I think some of it is pure choice, and some of it is options that you want to get on board before it's too late. For me, there's a very simple mantra. I think going forward, not just in India but globally, I think most of the phones are going to be smartphones. So if your business is not happening through a smartphone, then you need to look at it. It's quite simple. Every single business is requiring that extra connect with the ultimate consumer or the customer. And what better way to do it? Companies across the world have done it, and that's what we need to embrace.
Shankar, a lot of people in this post-demonetization era are talking about assets like gold. There was a spike in the number of people buying it. And a lot of people seem to think that that's one category where that touch and feel will still be needed. People want to go into a store and see it. But do you still think that even in these categories, digital will have a big role to play, that you will see that, that first choice making will happen on a smartphone, or deciding where to go, or price discovery is all going to change radically?
See, we ourselves 5 years back never thought the way that digital would influence our industry. But now the way things are happening is the customers, before they do any purchase, they go online and they try to look for designs. In order to take decisions, your, being present digitally becomes very important. And for the benefit of the house, one thing that I would like to share as an entrepreneur is that, from the top management, you have to believe that digital is the way in the future. As you invest, whatever sum of your money that you have, say it is a part of your marketing budget, say 2%, 5%, you will not see immediate returns happening. And that should not force you or make you think that it is a useless thing. Because the way we have to look into the future, we have to think ahead of our times. And we ourselves are surprised to see that people are buying jewelry, say in the range of 15 to 30,000 rupees online. Now, what is driving them? It is basically convenience.
Very interesting. Stanshu, building a brand, you built a brand from scratch, very different in the digital era than maybe 10 years ago. What are some of the aspects? He mentioned some aspects of the retail industry, of course, but you're in apparel. Take us through some of the things that you're doing at Turtle, where digital really has sort of a leading role to play.
Sure. I think there are a few digital initiatives we work on. One is that, I have about 1,000 dealers which need to be covered on a monthly basis for order booking. These are your traditional mom and pop stores. And the traditional model was that we have a huge sales force present across the country. You ship out samples to them every month, and then they travel the market. And even then, it's not physically possible to cover the entire market every month. So I think one is, we working on a digital catalog, and what we've realized, and thanks to online portals, is that the importance of that touch and feel is no longer that relevant once you've become a fairly credible and important brand. The dealers have that confidence that, even if you show it to them digitally, they would still order, and the supply would come and they would sell. So we're planning to host it on the cloud, so even in cities or towns where we could not cover, they could just have a login ID, password, and see the entire catalog, which is available real time in my DC.
Ajit, a sense from your client base, we've always been told that SME clients tend to be a little conservative in spending. They can't do the kind of upfront technology buying that traditionally all our IT service vendors used to offer to large corporates. So it was always driven by big Fortune 500 companies. Are you seeing that changing? Are you seeing with new technologies like cloud and software as a service, very different approach with which SME customers are digitizing?
Absolutely sort of agree with you. One of the challenges that SMEs have traditionally had in comparison to larger competitors is the kind of intelligence that they have which links up the value chain. We talk of IT systems, whether you invest in a certain IT system and then you realize that, let's say, in a year's time, the applications that you run on it are archaic. So cloud allows you to do that. The other thing that we see in our interactions with SMEs is that SMEs traditionally have had a challenge of scale, right? I'm a great software company. I have a very niche product. I render my services to, say, 20 companies, 50 companies. How do I scale up? Digital marketing, digital channels allows you to be accessible to a significantly larger set of customers.
Traditionally, interns also want to go to some of the bigger companies to put it on their CV. Do SMEs have that kind of clout?
So it's actually quite interesting, and let me give you a sort of real example of our own workforce. I mean, we have a fairly large workforce who works with channel partners and all. And my sense is when I interact with them is that, in our times, there was a mission of saying that, listen, I'm going to be a VP in the next 5 years. I'm going to be in this position for the next 7 years. These guys have a more evolved sense of creating something. So it's not so much level dependent, saying that, I'll be top of the company, I'll be a VP, I'll be whatever. It's more about, I want to create something. And we've lost some bright people to this creation bug, saying that, listen, I'd rather join a smaller company. That's where the action is happening. And so this is for, I'm not quoting any statistic here. This is out of a real exposure to the young people that sort of join our organization, that work in our organization, that gone are the days that they are thinking of levels. Those are not the ambitions that they have.
Thanks so much to all our panelists for being a part of this. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for our panelists.
Technology played an important role at the symposiums as the guests were asked to participate through the Do Big app and answer 3 questions. The response for each question asked at the Kolkata Symposium was as follows.
Raise your hand.
Do you have a digital vision and strategy that is communicated and known to all employees? Yes, 78%. No, 22%. Do you see your organization appointing a chief digital officer in the next 12 months? Yes, 59%. No, 29%. Already have a CDO? 12%. What stage of digital strategy implementation are you at? Not yet started? 10%. Initial stages? 71%. Well advanced? 20%. Next week, we take you on a spectacular journey as we decode the digital quotient in India and its impact across various sectors. Do Big Symposium brings you all this and more next week only on CNBC TV 18.
Focus, ideate, innovate, enable.